Hello comrades, and welcome to the first devlog of Payday to NQR. In this video we're gonna go over current progress on everything related to players' movement. If you've just stumbled upon this channel wondering what the hell NQR is, this is my huge gameplay overhaul mod for Payday 2 that I've been working on for a couple of years now. It's still quite far from being a full, proper 1.0 release, but it's getting closer to becoming public, sort of like an alpha. But until that happens, I'm gonna do a series of videos showing what I've been cooking there. So starting the topic of players' movement, we can obviously look at the movement speed, which, as you could probably notice, is quite a bit slower than vanilla. This is me wearing no armor, just the suit. And so this is what I determined to be like the fastest a person could walk in a firefight. So crouching lowers the speed significantly, and running is actually way faster than walking compared to vanilla. This is some actual sprinting right there. I would also quickly mention the topic of shakers, which is your gun moving inside your view, which is actually your camera moving around the gun, which creates that effect. But anyway, here we have a breathing shaker, which we can see the gun moves a tiny bit when we're calm. And this is a vanilla feature, it's just that the values have been tweaked. And then we have a so-called head bob shaker, which is when we move around. Again, the values have been tweaked, and it is now actually present while we are aiming down the sights. Unlike vanilla, which disables it completely when you're aiming. And it's going to be especially noticeable with our magnified optic. And considering the fact that the point of aim shift is there, again, this is a vanilla feature, it's just that, again, in vanilla, your gun doesn't move almost at all when you're aiming and moving. Here, since bullets fly directly where your dot is, then yeah, trying to move around and aiming with a magnified optic is going to be quite a bit more difficult. Noticeable with red dot sights, because red dots work a bit differently, and the dot, as you can see, like my entire gun moves around inside of the view, but the dot stays in the same place. I'm kind of liking the effect and kind of the balance between each other, between red dots and magnified optics. But I'm probably gonna implement the same kind of movement for red dots as well. Maybe, not sure yet. And so this head bob shaker actually gets stronger when you are crouched, since it's not as, it's not as comfortable to move around while crouched, and you're not as stable with your gun if you're trying to do something like that. The speed of it is slower, since you are moving slower, and you are making less frequent steps that way. So it's stronger but less frequent when you're crouched. I also do have a little bit of a bonus shaker when sprinting, which kind of knocks the camera down a little bit with every step. Not insanely noticeable, but if I initiate a slow motion, you could probably see dunk, dunk, dunk. Exactly with every step the camera goes down just a tiny bit to kind of simulate the impact of running around. You could also notice the sprinting animation being unsynced with camera movement, which is deliberate to kind of give it a bit more dynamic feel, unlike vanilla, where you get an initial random sync at the start of every sprinting action. Next up we have changes to jumping. So you can notice multiple things. First of all, the jump height is a little bit higher than vanilla when you're wearing a suit or an LBV. And it's not like you would suddenly start to jump insanely high when not wearing any armor. It's sort of more like a representation of you being mobile, kind of simulating a little bit of a mantling of sorts. And then after that, every armor is gonna have the same jumping height. So wearing no armor allows me to jump up straight onto this monitor. You could also notice the gravity increased significantly compared to vanilla. You also get some neat shakers. So there's a little bit of an animation, camera animation being played when actually initiating a jump, which is static. And then you get some landing shaker, which is dynamic and depends on the height of the fall. So if I jump from there, I get this landing sort of camera knockdown. If I jump even higher, I get even stronger shake. One important thing about jumping height is that it is proportional to your horizontal movement speed. And by that I mean that if you're just standing still, you're getting maximum jumping height, which allows me to jump onto this monitor straight up. But if I walk forward and then jump height is getting lower, because I'm spending a part of that energy to, you know, jump forward. And that lowers my jumping height. I can no longer jump onto that monitor. I could probably jump onto this, onto this part of the monitor, yeah. And that depends on the speed, so it is kind of linear. So if I were to sprint, jumping height becomes even lower. It almost doubles, I mean halves, when you are sprinting compared to not moving at all. So I'm probably still gonna be able to jump on top of this monitor kind of arm. Yeah, but I barely jump on top of it. So if I just walk forward, I still have some landing going on. But if I sprint, I barely reach it. Still gonna allow me to jump on top of this table, for example. But yeah, if you want to jump on top of something tall, then you would probably want to walk towards it, then lower your speed, lower your movement speed, and then jump on top of it, like that. Also, one more important thing about movement is that you could probably notice the movement itself became kind of sloppy, and that's why I almost completely removed the so-called initial acceleration of a player. So in vanilla, you could probably notice the player, when you start moving around, the player reaches its maximum speed almost immediately. But now here, you are actually accelerating from 0 to a max, which doesn't allow you anymore to like sort of do these very quick sporadic movements. Like if I'm mashing my D button, I'm almost not moving at all. Only if I deliberately press it, then the character starts moving. So there is a process of starting a movement, which also doesn't allow you to immediately change the direction of movement. So after moving left, if I start moving right, my character first needs to stop the movement to the left, then starts accelerating to the right. And the same also goes for sprinting. So if I would want to quickly turn around, you can see me drifting almost. I need to stop accelerating in the direction I was moving in. And because of this, it also affects in a huge way the air control. So for example, if I'm gonna be mid-air, I'm not gonna be able to move around a lot. If I started jumping without walking and then start walking while I'm in the air, I can still move a bit, but not to the same speed as, well, let's say I would walk forwards, then jump. This is my speed of, if I were to jump from walking forwards, I regain the same speed. But if I were to jump and then walk forward, yeah, the movement speed is a lot slower. Same goes for if I jump forward and then want to change my direction of my flight, and then like if I jump forward and then immediately after that start pressing walk backwards, I can only like stop myself, but not actually start flying backwards. If sprinting, then yeah, forget about it. I'm still flying forward despite me pressing backwards in air. So I can only like slow myself down, and that's it. I also need to mention one of the most important thing about all of this is stamina getting a significant overhaul, basically becoming one of your resources that you're gonna have to think about. In short, you're gonna have a bit less of it, it also regenerates way slower, and it also penalizes you a bit. So first of all, just many more actions now drain the stamina, and the amount depends on the action. And by the way, you could see this this little white circle. This is my stamina inside of my green health circle. So as you can see, jumping drains quite a bit of stamina. Sitting down doesn't drain it, but standing up from sitting position drains a little bit of stamina. Sprinting, obviously, is a huge stamina drainer. Not gonna be able to sprint a whole lot. Throwing a throwable, it's a tiny bit of stamina.
Stay back.
Melee strikes also spend a bit of stamina. Depends on the weight of the gun, which we're gonna talk about a bit later. Also the bag throw eats quite a lot, a bit more than a jump. But at the same time, you could just drop it straight on the ground and it doesn't drain any stamina. Or like, I mean, right on the table. Or you can throw it as far as you can, and it drains a lot of stamina. We're gonna talk about this feature in a future video. Also, funnily enough, moving while crouched drains your stamina. Slowly, a little bit, but it does, and you don't regenerate. So having all of this in mind, the quickest way to spend all of your stamina is doing a classic vanilla crouch jumping. Like that. That's it, I'm fully drained. And this is in a suit. With with a heavy armor, it's significantly faster. So after that, regenerating speed is actually a bit dynamic. It depends on what I'm doing. So walking around gives me the slowest stamina regeneration. Standing still increases the speed a tiny bit. You can't probably even notice it, but just know it's a bit faster. And then sitting down while not moving, because remember, moving when crouched drains the stamina. Like that. It drains it. But when you're just sitting, not moving, it's the fastest regeneration. So if you were irresponsible enough to find yourself in a situation without any stamina, you are getting penalized in a number of ways. If your stamina amount is below the so-called threshold, which is about 5% of stamina, as you can see, I'm mashing my shift button and I can start a new sprint action, which is the same as vanilla, but now at the same time, your jumping height just becomes, well, you know, you basically aren't jumping. Like you can do the tiniest jump if you need to like jump over, I don't know, a step or something. You could do the jump, but then you immediately spend all you had. Your throwable throw distance
Fireworks.
halves.
Stay back.
Your melee strikes deal close to no damage, although you can still stumble an enemy. You could also throw bags only right next to you, although respectively you don't lose any stamina. And you could also notice, along with heavy breathing sound effects, actually the camera breathing shaker also gets stronger and more frequent, linearly with your stamina amount. So you probably don't want to have this while you're out of breath and trying to aim a far head through the scope. It's gonna be quite a bit more difficult, especially for an unexperienced player. Also, by the way, forgot to mention the breathing shaker becomes much more tameable while crouched. Significantly less stronger. Again, doesn't affect red dots almost at all, because the dot is in the same spot. Although there is this funny weapon sway, which we're gonna talk about a bit later, which affects red dot aiming point. But being out of breath with red dots doesn't really change a whole lot, besides maybe it's gonna be a little bit harder to aim when the red dot, red dot body is gonna obstruct the dot itself, but that's about it. Primarily it's the optics. It also stacks with a head bob shaker, which kind of creates this a little bit more dynamic walking animation, which is kind of neat. And probably the most severe one, if you not only were irresponsible enough to spend all your stamina, but also unfortunate enough to not be standing without the stamina. You can't stand up immediately. You can only, it's not the same threshold, it's only about like 2% of the stamina, but you need to gain some in order to stand back up. Like I'm mashing the control button. And then I can only stand up when I have at least a tiny bit. So when you have 0, no standing up for you. Rest at least a little bit, and then you can have the luxury of standing up. So if you find yourself in this kind of situation while also being swarmed by enemies, and you would want to kind of fuck off, it is strongly advised to first try to defend yourself with a gun, and then while you do that, you're probably gonna gain enough stamina to at least stand up and, I don't know, make an initial runaway to the cover. Which leads us perfectly to another little feature of player's movement. If I'm gonna drop myself from enough of a height, then I'm gonna drop down on the ground. Which is a bit similar to bleed out, or being down, right? Except that the camera tilt angle is not as extreme as in bleed out, and most importantly, I still have my HP, right? I can also move around, but I can also move around in bleed out as well. You can notice the character lowers its weapon down, so I cannot move and shoot at the same time. So if I push my full auto fire and then started moving, can only shoot when the gun is ready to fire, and movement requires me to lower my weapon. It happens automatically. So I call this thing a knockdown. Again, it's similar to bleed out, but the biggest difference is that you're not like insanely injured, you've just been knocked down to the ground. And so the big difference is you can just stand back up by pressing either a jump button or a crouch button. That transitions me to a crouch state, after which I could just stand up and I'm good as new. You could notice me also draining a little bit of stamina while moving in a knockdown state, same as crouched. You could also notice not being able to, again, when standing back up, the character sort of re-equips its gun. That way, first, you're not able to shoot immediately while this process is going on, and you can also not immediately start trying to stand it back up after you just fell down. There's a little bit of a delay, so I was just mashing my spacebar right there. That way I couldn't be able to immediately stand back up. There's a little bit of a delay happening, and this delay increases with heavier armor. And the same delay goes for the ability to regain the rest of your movement abilities, like sprinting. I'm not able to, I was pressing shift right there, and I'm not able to like instantly sprint after I'm trying to stand back up. So there's a delay of me being able to stand back up, and then after that actually standing back up, the action of standing back up is also takes a little bit of a time, and also depends on how heavy your armor is. And only after that I'm gonna then be able to fully stand up and or sprint. Right there. There's also a smaller effect of falling down from lesser heights. Like for example, if I fall down from this height, nothing happens, I just get a little camera shake. But if I actually jump off of there, a number of things happen. First of all, my camera went down forcefully, Also, my character went down to a crouched position forcefully, and my gun had to re-equip itself again forcefully. So I had to like re-raise my gun, and obviously while it's doing that, I cannot use it. Like that. I lose linearly a little bit of HP, depending on the distance. Like this distance was enough to like knock me down. If I pick lower distance, like I fall down and I lose a little bit of HP. Again, linearly depends on the distance. And then if the fall was high enough to spend all of my HP, then I go straight to bleed out. Again, I can still move around like that, same as with a knockdown, but if I keep receiving damage, for example from a cops shooting me, then I obviously go to a fatal state, or so-called incapacitated. Then I obviously will not be able to move around anymore. You could also see me doing this funny thing on the previous video, which you could start doing from the same height that would give you this effect. So right after the same height that would start give you fall damage, you could do this and completely negate fall damage, but not from any distance. It basically just rises the threshold at which you start receiving fall damage. If you do this sort of safety roll, so at this distance I still receive some fall damage, but otherwise I would just get knocked down. I'm not sure about this feature being in the initial sort of alpha release, because this feature is going to be a skill, and I'm not sure about skills yet. And so I think that's going to be it for player's movement. There's still so much more stuff to go through. That was only the beginning. If you'd like to see a little bit of this mod in action, I'd suggest you to watch this earlier video, which by the way received quite a bit of traction considering my pathetic little YouTube channel. Which was nice. I appreciate the support. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them down there in the comments. I'll happily answer them either right there or maybe even in future videos. And yeah, thanks for watching. Wish you all the best and take care.